Hi everyone! In today's video I'm going to be doing an art supply review, which makes a very nice change actually because there's been a lot of digital art videos recently on my channel. So today I will be reviewing the water brush pens, the 96 pack of watercolour real brush pens, and also the A4 watercolour pad, all from ARTEZA. And I have seen ARTEZA everywhere. I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing it correctly. I know it's ARTEZA or ARTEZA. It's one of the two. So please let me know if I'm saying it right. I'm just gonna go and say ARTEZA. So if you're like me and follow a lot of artists on Instagram or YouTube, you probably would have seen these all over the place too. So I for one was very intrigued. So when they approached me asking if I would like some free samples to try, of course I said yes, because I was actually looking into buying their products anyway because I've seen them advertised so much and seen so many positive reviews. So being the broke university student I am, I said yes, I would love for you guys to send me some free products to try, and in return I will make a video about it, reviewing them. But just as a little disclaimer before we get into the video, although I was sent these for free, I will be giving my complete honest review, and I really do mean that. I know some people out there believe that if you're being sent free products, then you're kind of being swayed to give a more positive review, but I am not being paid to say anything, and even if I was sent products for free and I think they're awful, then I would just give a brutally honest review and say to you guys that I feel like they're awful. I would never want to endorse a product if I didn't fully recommend it. If I didn't like it, I would tell you. And I just wanted to put that out there before we get into the video, because I've seen some people discuss this before, and I just wanted people to know that if I'm recommending something, it's because I really truly do recommend it, and I would never want to lie about something like that on this channel. So anyway, to get into the actual products, I was sent the A4 watercolour pad, like I said, and this comes in a pack of 2. And on the ARTEZA UK website, this is being sold at £19.99, which I thought was actually a really good price for 2 watercolour pads. Inside these you get 32 sheets each, so because it comes in a pack of 2, you get 64 total. So these are cold pressed, and if you don't know what that means, it basically just refers to the finish of the paper or the tooth of the paper, which is just a fancy way of saying what the texture of it is like. Cold press is bumpy and textured, whereas hot press is much more smooth. I normally use hot press because I like the smooth surface of it. I feel like you can get crisper lines with it, but I wanted to switch things up and try cold press this time around. And the way that the water and the paint behaves on these different types of paper can vary a little bit. Water gets absorbed a lot quicker on cold press paper because of its bumpy texture. So this can be a blessing and a curse. It's kind of an advantage because your work dries quickly and you're not having to wait around for it to dry, but also you're going to have to work quickly because it dries so quickly. So that was one thing that I did have to kind of get used to as I was going along. The next thing I'm going to talk a little bit about is the nylon brush tip water brush pens. So water brush pens, if you've never tried one before, have this kind of barrel that you fill up with water. You screw on the lid and then you've got this little nylon brush at the end. This kind of saves you from having to dip your paintbrush into a water glass thing. And I know, I always see on artist problem things, people talking about the drinking of the paint water. I've actually done that before. I once drunk paint water and spat it out all over my drawing. It was not a good thing at all because all my watercolour was bleeding everywhere because of all the water. It was horrible. So I ruined a drawing through drinking paint water. So having it in this little barrel means you don't have to dip it in paint water and get confused and drink your paint water. But also I think the main reason people make these water brush pens is because they're a lot more transportable. There is a different word for it, transportable. That is not the word I'm looking for, is it? Why does my mind always go blank every time I'm doing a voiceover? Basically, they're just a lot easier to carry around because they're small. You don't have to carry around a glass of water with you everywhere when you're painting. So these are very efficient and useful. I have actually owned water brush pens before. I used to have the Pentel Aquash ones. Well, I already own them, and I feel like they were more expensive. but I was probably more impressed with these water brush pens, and these came in a set of 4 for £8.89. So for value for money, I think that's actually pretty good, because I'm pretty sure, and I did check this, the Pentel ones are a little more expensive. So next onto the watercolour real brush pens. These are basically a big set of 96 colours of loads of different brush pens, and when ARTEZA reached out to me and asked what I would like to review, I saw these and I really so badly wanted to try them. I just want to quickly talk about what the markers actually look like. They have a pretty thin barrel and they do feel very lightweight. On this barrel it says the name of the colour, but it doesn't say this on the end of the watercolour brush pens at all, so that might be a little bit annoying, but it does have the colour of them on the very end anyway, so if you were storing them in like a shelving kind of unit, then that would be something to keep in mind. And then as for the actual brush end, it is a nylon kind of brush tip, and this feels very soft when you're painting with them. It's kind of like just painting with an actual brush, except all the ink is obviously stored inside. And yeah, I really like these brush nibs. Like I said, it feels like you're just painting. Then quickly, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how this performs on different types of paper. So because these are watercolor brush pens and they're water-based, they're going to perform very differently on different types of paper. So if you're going to use this on printer paper, you never want to use something like watercolors on printer paper anyway, because it will just make the paper go and like bubble up. It's not thick enough to withstand that kind of ink. So definitely use watercolor paper with this. I did a little test to see how easily blendable it is on the watercolor paper. So I did one test where I put down a little bit of color, I blended it out with some water, and then on the other side I left the color for a little bit before I decided to actually blend it out with the water, and you can see it makes a less seamless blend if you do it that way, but overall on the watercolor paper these perform amazingly. Whereas I then tried it on a little bit of my Moleskine sketchbook paper, and to be fair, this is quite a thin paper, but I thought because this isn't like cold press, this is quite a smooth paper, I thought the paint would just kind of lay on top of it and that it would be maybe easier to blend because of that reason, but it actually ended up leaving these horrible like blobby bits where the original paint was put down that wouldn't blend out very well at all. I thought I would get a very seamless blend because the surface was so smooth. I guess I'm using the wrong kind of paper to get the effect that I'm going for, if you guys know what I mean. But basically, the Moleskine sketchbook paper did not perform that well with these. I think of all the papers I tried these on, they performed the best on the watercolor paper. So if you do actually buy these pens, I strongly recommend that you use watercolor paper with them. Don't get these mixed up with like alcohol-based markers or anything. They're not like Copics or Winsor & Newton brush markers. These are water-based, so it's essentially like using watercolor, and that is another reason why I got the water brush pens, because you can lay down these like watercolor real brush pens and then use just the water pen and kind of blend it out, and you can kind of create gradients that way. So it's literally just like laying down a bit of watercolor, and because it's water based, it will pick up in the water and you can kind of like blend it out, which is really cool. Something I would say is kind of like a dupe for these, like a very similar kind of product, is the Tombow markers, which I've had before. They are a lot more expensive though. So a set of 96 watercolour real brush pens from ARTEZA are £65.98, whereas the Tombow 96 pack is £279 on Amazon. I don't know if that's because they have to be like imported from the US to the UK. That might be part of it, but that is such a big price difference. That's like at least £210 more. So this is much cheaper than if you wanted to get the Tombow markers, which are also water-based. So they are quite similar in that way, although I'm not sure about the nibs. The nibs are a little bit different, because on these, they're called real brush pens because they have like a real brush on the end of them. It's got like that kind of nylon tip that you have at the end of the water brush pens as well. And this set actually does come with a water brush pen anyway, so I didn't really need to get the water brush pens, although I'm kind of glad I did because these come in loads of different sizes. So if you're trying to do a more detailed area, then you can use the smaller one for that. I was so excited when I first got to play with these real watercolour brush pens because I did a whole page worth of swatches and I wrote down the names of every single colour. I mean, some of the colours have really funny names. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but there's some that are like, I don't know, they just kind of make me laugh because I always think to myself, if I was a marker company or like an art company, what would I call the different shades? Or even like when you're buying eyeshadow and they all have different like shade names, I would struggle so much to come up with the names of what to call every different like variation. But anyway, my point was, before I got off on that little tangent, is that this came in so many different colour variety. I was seriously impressed and it was very satisfying swatching them all out on that piece of paper because I don't know, because it's all in like rainbow order, it's just very, very satisfying and like aesthetically pleasing. So yeah, I feel like when you're an artist and you have a big selection of colours to use, it's kind of like a dream come true because you're like, oh my gosh, there's so many different colours to play with. I mean, obviously you can always mix colours together. I think it said on the ARTEZA website that you can try doing that by touching the tips of the brushes together and kind of doing it that way. But I didn't really want to do that because I didn't want to get the tips of the brushes dirty. Also, like, it said if you dipped the brush in water, you could make a gradient that way. But I don't really want to, like, draw the ink out of the brush itself. I don't know, I kind of felt a bit, like, funny about doing that. But maybe if they're suggesting you do that, then it is fine. I don't really know. Oh yeah, one disadvantage I think with these markers and also the water brush pen is that because they are these like nylon hair brushes, I don't know how likely this is, but you could end up like jamming the pen into the lid wrong and then kind of damaging the bristle, like the hairs at the end of the brush. So I would say if you do get these markers, do handle them with care. Try not to like jam it into the pen lid because then it might lose its shape a little bit. This didn't happen to any of my pens though, so you should be okay. I have been using these for about a month and a half before the review because I wanted to make sure I definitely did like them and that they didn't dry up before I did any video on them. Oh yeah, another thing that was slightly annoying was that one of my colours, I think it was coffee, the colour coffee, when it arrived, it was the only one in the set, but this one was basically almost dried up when I got the set, which I was very disappointed by. So I think if I had to say one negative, it would have been that one colour had been dried up. I don't know how it happened, but it arrived like that. So I was a little disappointed due to that, and I think if you've paid £60, you would be a bit annoyed if one of the colours was dried up, but thank God it was only one. I mean, I say that, it shouldn't really have been dried up anyway. But yeah, that was my only really complaint. Anyway, on to the drawings that I did in this video. So the first drawing that you saw me do was a painting of a shark mermaid because it was May when I was filming that part of it. It was early May and I was doing a mermaid. But unfortunately, because it's taken me so long to edit this video because I'm going back and forth between university and home, it's now not May anymore. So when I post it, I can't even post it for mermaid. But yeah, it was basically supposed to be a shark mermaid. I kind of messed it up a little bit because she was meant to have these like fins on either side of her tail to make her look more shark-like. And then it was there in the sketch, and then when I coloured it in, I completely forgot to include them. I just coloured over them with like the sea, and I was like, no, why did I do that? I just ruined the drawing. I don't think it's really ruined, but I don't think it really conveys that she's a shark mermaid well enough. I also wasn't that proud of this drawing because, I don't know, it was just the first one I did with the markers. I was kind of playing around, only just getting to grips with them. So I'm not completely proud of how that one came out. But I do like the little angel fish that are kind of swimming around her. I think that looks really cute. I'm very proud of that. And then the next thing I did was I made a little like Instagram selfie of my character Iris. So Iris was formerly known as the Rainbow Hair Girl. She has appeared in lots of different videos in my channel now, and I thought she's kind of like a recurring character on this channel, might as well make her into like an OC. And she's one of those OCs where she was just kind of drawn because she was fun to draw, and she's not part of like my comic or anything like that, and I haven't really thought of a backstory for her. And then this idea came into my head because I've seen people do this before, where they kind of draw their characters, like make a drawing but the character's taking a selfie. I thought that was so cool, so I looked up selfies as reference, and I used a reference picture to kind of like recreate it. So Iris, the rainbow hair girl, is taking a selfie. And the name Iris actually comes from a viewer suggestion. Someone suggested in the comments that I should call this character Iris because Iris is the goddess of rainbows. And I was like, wow, that's a really good idea. So she's called Iris. So she's taking a little selfie, and I've written like a little Instagram caption below it. And then I thought maybe her backstory could be that she's like an Instagram influencer. I mean, I hate the word, but you know what I mean. She's like an Instagram celebrity, basically. She's just posting pictures to Instagram, and she took a little selfie out in the park, and it says, "Love this weather, hashtag summer is here, hashtag finally." I really didn't know what to caption it. I don't even know what to caption my own Instagram post, so I struggled a bit with this. And then as a little Easter egg, I put liked by Ember18, which is one of my other OCs, Ember. I thought it'd be cute to put a little reference to her. But yeah, I'm really, really proud of how this one came out. I think it's because it's more of a close-up shot, and it wasn't such fine details because, like I was saying earlier, I work with hot press a lot of the time because I feel like you can just get crisp edges, and on cold press paper like this I do kind of struggle to get those kind of crisp lines, so doing one that's more zoomed in and more of like a close-up shot of her face worked out a lot better for that. And yeah, I'm really proud of how this came out. It makes me want to make a whole like series of like little Instagram selfies. If that's like a video you would want to see, please let me know, because I would make like a whole load of Instagram selfies, and I was thinking I could tie them all along like a piece of string and like hang them up on my wall. I thought it would just look really cute, and like maybe put some fairy lights along it. I don't know when I think I'm gonna have the time to do this, but yeah. If you notice in the background while I was drawing this one, the background kind of changes a little bit. It went from like being a grey desk to being like a wooden floor. That's because in the middle of filming this video, I moved back home from university, and I'm back home for the summer now with my family, so that was a slight change in scenery there. I hope that wasn't too jarring for you guys watching it, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to tie this video together now because I'm sorry I've been rambling for a very long time. I have to say I was really, really impressed with these products that ARTEZA sent me. I know a lot of people are kind of annoyed because they kind of claim that a lot of their products are premium when they're more student grade. And I would agree, I would say they are quite student grade, but I felt like the watercolour paper was premium, definitely. And those watercolour brush pens, I was really happy with, and I would say they were comparable to the Tombow ones. And yeah, overall, very, very positive reaction from me. And I went into this quite skeptical because obviously if you see so many positive reviews, you are going to be naturally a little bit skeptical. But yeah, I went in with low expectations, and I think I am very pleasantly surprised by ARTEZA. I can't vouch for any of their other products. I've only tried these 3, so if I do another video with ARTEZA, please let me know what you guys would like to see me review, because you never know, the rest of the products could be no good or they could be amazing, who knows. I would like to try some more and find out for myself, but yeah, I hope you guys found this helpful. I definitely recommend those watercolor brush pens. I will be having lots more videos coming soon because I'm finally done with university, and I hope you guys have an amazing day. See you in the next video, guys. Bye!